You're listening to the Her Money, Her Business podcast. This podcast is for women starting or growing their own business and features episodes about money management, reducing financial stress, and how to grow a profitable business that's built to last. We want to see women in business thriving. So if you avoid discussing money, lack confidence managing money, or want to struggle less while making money, then you're in the right place. Let's make finance fun and money matter. I'm your host, Sonja Balzarolo, and this is the Her Money, Her Business podcast. Hello, welcome to episode 16. Today I wanted to talk to you about reconciling. In my mind, reconciling rocks. I love reconciling. I'm a numbers geek, I'm a reconciling nerd, I'm obviously a bookkeeper, and I love Xero. So in this episode, I really wanted to talk about why reconciling your accounts is so important. Whether you're using Xero or another accounting software program, or even a spreadsheet, it's so important to your business success. And it's so important that you're across reconciling and how that should work in your business. So yes, you can get your bookkeeper to do it for you. You may already be doing that. I do bookkeeping obviously for clients. That's part of the service that I offer. But if you don't know how to do it yourself, you're leaving a really big knowledge gap in your business. And you're also missing out on some fun. Yep, I said it, reconciling can be fun. What? Let me give you my thoughts on this, and you may understand a little bit behind why this can be fun once you get your head around it. So as humans, we're actually built to have a need to complete things. It's actually an inbuilt reflex in our psyche to have a response that every action, has an opposite reaction. We balance things. So example, simple things in your life like, need to straighten picture frame, need to tie loose shoelaces, putting things back where they belong. They're very simple forms of needing to complete things. But I'm sure in your everyday life, you can come up with things that you as a person feel like you need to complete. That you can't leave them sort of hanging in the air. Reconciling is the same thing. Being able to balance the books and make things match is what reconciling is really all about. And when you actually do that, it's very rewarding. So getting your bank statement to match what your spreadsheet or your accounting software says that you've spent and you've received is basically what reconciling is. So every item spent or sold has an opposite transaction, whether it's on your spreadsheet or in your accounting software. So for every item that you spend on your balance, on your bank balance, there's an equal entry on your expenses line. Or for every item or service that you sell, there's an invoice or a transaction document provided to the consumer, and you receive money into your bank account to pay that item. So it's, the opposite of it, equaling out that transaction, money in and money out. So in Xero, as an example, I'll talk about Xero because that is the only accounting software that I work with clients. I only take on clients that use Xero because I love it so much. In Xero, it automatically imports your bank statement. So other accounting software do this as well. It's not just limited to Xero, but imports your bank statement for you to then reconcile against. So on what they call the dashboard, you will have your bank account. You might have a couple of bank accounts if you're following something like Profit First, where you might have your standard in and out bank account or spending, and then you might have a tax account, a savings account, etc., depending on how it's set up. So in each of your bank statements, if you like, in Xero, you can then go into them, and it has a dashboard that basically lists off everything that you've spent and that you've received into your bank account. That comes straight from your bank, from the bank statement, and then you reconcile those items. So basically you match them to the opposing transaction. So that might be if you've spent money at Bunnings purchasing something, or Officeworks, let's say, that money will show in the spent column, and then you need to assign that to whatever account code you're putting that towards. So if it was Officeworks and you've bought stationery, then you're going to code that to Officeworks as the supplier, and the code for that is going to be printing and stationery, let's say, if that's how you've set it up in your business. So you're going through and doing that, and each time you code something, if it's an expense, then that will come off the dashboard and it means you've reconciled it. If you've got money coming into your account, then you should have in the system an invoice, let's say if that was a service. So if it was my bookkeeping, I've set up an invoice in Xero, I sent it to the client. When that money comes back into the bank account through the bank statement, on my dashboard there, it will come up and I can reconcile to say that's now been paid. So basically you're just matching each amount, whether it's spent or received, to an opposite transaction. If you were using a manual system and you were using a spreadsheet, it means you're just able to show on your spreadsheet you've entered a line item for each thing that you've spent. You might have an expenses tab and a sales tab. So every item you spent is listed on the expenses tab. Every item that you sell and that's paid for is on your sales tab. And those amounts, when you sum them on your spreadsheet, should match what's in your bank statement. Now, that is assuming that you're just using a business bank account. So if you mixing in personal and business expenses, it gets a little bit more tricky when you're manually tracking that, but you can still do it. It's still possible. But basically, you're just trying to get to a point where you are able to balance and show that your bank statement matches what you've spent and received through your bank account. So that's where having software really makes this process much easier for you. But when you're starting out in business, a spreadsheet will absolutely do the job. So in Xero, you can also run what's called a bank reconciliation report. So that is actually a report that you can run against that bank account for a date and time. So let's say the end of the month or the end of the tax year, and it will tell you whether the bank statement matches what transactions you've put through in Xero. And so if you've reconciled everything, it should all match and it will say it balances. If it doesn't balance, it will give you the line items to go back and fix and have a look at. So it really is very user-friendly to help you with this whole reconciling process. So there is a great satisfaction in being able to run a report or sum your spreadsheet and see that everything balances. And for someone like me, like a bookkeeper, it's an endorphin rush. But even as a business owner, like I obviously reconcile my own accounts as well, even just as a business owner, removing the bookkeeper part, it's so satisfying to be able to balance your books. So if you want to outsource your reconciling to a bookkeeper, I really believe that you should know how to do this first. So if you're not yet at the point and you're almost getting ready to start thinking, I might outsource this to a bookkeeper, please spend the time to understand the process first. Understand the importance of it, the account codes that your business uses and that you want to see on a P&L. So, you should be able to run a profit and loss or to create a profit and loss. If you're doing it on a spreadsheet, you can have a third tab that says P&L and you can match up or bring over the expenses and the sales and then have a sum that shows you what's left, which is basically your profit or your loss, depending on where you're at. So really just knowing what you want to track and what you want to see. So it might be just as simple as your expenses are, let's say, insurances, printing and stationery, business costs, things like registering your business, having your website hosting, registering your domain name, things like that, fuel if you're using your car under your business, etc. So whatever it is that you want to see how you're spending, so you don't just want to see I've spent $400, what did I spend that on, and breaking it down into little sections, knowing what account code you want your business to have. And a software like Xero allows you to decide what you want to see on that P&L and hide the rest. You can choose what account code you want to be using. And even on a spreadsheet as well, you decide what you want to categorize your expenses into, and then you just sum those into little categories of expenses, etc. You can easily do that on a spreadsheet. So this is where really getting to understand what you want to measure in your business, what you want to know about your business on a regular basis, and then keeping the data up to date by reconciling really gives you a good overview of your business. Reconciling also gives you a behind the scenes understanding of why it's important to keep your receipts and to generate accurate invoices when you're billing your clients. So you can really see and understand the mechanics of that process if you do some reconciling yourself. And then you'll really understand that process. So when you hand that over to a bookkeeper or someone to do that for you, you still understand that whole process. So when they come back to you with questions, where do you want me to code this to? What's this for? Why did you charge this rate this time and this rate last time? You really can answer those questions very easily, and you can make good decisions about your business and what you want it to look like in the back end, how you want it to work. Also, being able to do your own reconciling, even if you just do the simple stuff, it can save you a little bit of money if you're outsourcing to a bookkeeper. Get them to do the more complex stuff, or the stuff that needs tax decisions around, and do the really simple stuff yourself. Xero also does things like you can set up bank rules where it will apply the same thing. So if every month on the 5th of the month you've got GoDaddy coming out to pay for your website hosting, you can set up a rule that basically fills in the blanks and you just okay it once you're comfortable that that's right. So things like that you could be doing yourself to save a little bit of money on bookkeeping, and it also keeps your finger in the pie around what's going on in your business without having to do all of the bookkeeping once you've outsourced. So yeah, it's really good to be able to do some of this yourself. And of course, it helps you really understand how it all feeds into your P&L, and then you know how to read your P&L better and make those decisions for your business based on accurate, up-to-date information. My suggestion is, if you're going to do some reconciling, that you just get in there once a week and do what you can. If you're doing it all yourself, obviously definitely I would suggest once a week, but if you're outsourcing, you just want to keep your finger in the pie and do some, then maybe just do it once a week and go in there and do what you can, and then the rest your bookkeeper takes over and does for you once you hand that over. So let's summarize why Reconciling Rocks. So it helps you know your numbers, it helps you have up-to-date information for decision making, helps you see problems early. So if there's something going wrong, or you're not charging enough, or you're putting the wrong GST rate in, or tax rate in, etc. You can pick these things up early. You can see them happening and fix them ahead of time, instead of having to fix 12 months worth when you're getting your tax ready. Less stress at tax time. So I do not at all recommend leaving all of this stuff to the couple of weeks before tax is due. That is an absolute nightmare for a business owner. So little incremental bits, doing a little bit each week, keeps not only your figures up to date, you know exactly what's going on in your business at a given date, but it just reduces that stress at tax time. Helps you pick up these discrepancies, incorrect charges, or unnecessary expenses that you might have in your business that you didn't quite realize were coming through. But if you're doing this and seeing your accounts behind the scenes, you're going to pick this stuff up. Keeps you on top of tax documents like invoices and receipts. There is nothing worse than having to go and try and remember what you spent at Bunnings 4 months ago and then trying to chase up a receipt because you can't find it. So having a good process behind that, I just have an envelope that I shove everything into, and when I'm reconciling once a week, everything's there ready to go. Things like that. Have an envelope in your glove box. Have a section in your purse. However that needs to work, but keeping on top of those documents is crucial, particularly if you are claiming GST and charging GST, because you really need to have those compliant documents that are on invoices and receipts to back up what you're claiming. And if you're like me, it gives you a thrill when it all balances. So there's some reasons why Reconciling Rocks. So it's tax time here in Australia only in a couple of months. So if your books are a mess and nothing balances and you need some help, get started now. Get some help now. Get on top of it. But once it's under control, take that time to understand what went wrong and spend the next few months doing this reconciling yourself. Weekly if you can, as I mentioned. And once you get a feel that once you feel like you're across it, then maybe let your bookkeeper take over again if you've got a bookkeeper, or if you're ready to outsource. You might feel like numbers are not your thing, but it's your money and your business. That's why I've called the podcast Her Money, Her Business, because I truly believe that it's your money, it's your business, that you really need to become a numbers person if you feel like you're not. Just enough to know that your business is under control, you feel confident, you don't have a fear around managing this side of your business, and that you really do need to be a numbers person to have your business in the best of health. You know the numbers, you know that everything's working and flowing smoothly, you're picking up any problems before they arise. These are all really good reasons to put some time into understanding reconciling and how all that works and why it's so important, and understanding it for your business. So that's it from me. I hope that gives you some insight into reconciling why it's important, and also perhaps some motivation to get into understanding that side of things if you're not across that in your business. So take care, and I will talk to you on the next episode. Bye for now. Inspired to take action? Head on over to our website, blossomingbusiness.com.au, for this episode's show notes and access to all of our resources. You've been listening to the Her Money, Her Business podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please head over to iTunes and leave us a review. I'm Sonja Balzarolo, and until next time, keep striving to make finance fun and money matter.